We have some news from Volkswagen. This is an updated second generation all-new Volkswagen Atlas to replace the current Atlas that's been around for going on 10 years now. This is a huge seller for Volkswagen. This vehicle is a very big deal in North America, so it's something that they want to keep current because this is a super competitive market. And admittedly, we don't know tons about this vehicle yet. They're being pretty cagey about most of the information because this car hasn't been revealed. That's why it's camouflaged. But we do have a sneak peek into this vehicle. I did get the opportunity to drive it out here in the ice, and we know a few of the crucial details about the platform and powertrain that are going into it. Now, Volkswagen has actually flown us out to Quebec. We flew into Montreal, and we're outside of the city, of course, to drive some of these early prototypes on the ice, which is really cool because it's pretty unusual for us to get the opportunity to drive a vehicle when it's still in prototype form and when it's fully camouflaged. And yeah, we're driving them on the ice, so we get to have some idea of the capability of this all-wheel drive system, but there's still a lot that we won't be able to deduce until we can drive this vehicle on pavement. And that's intentional on Volkswagen's part. We can't really say yet how this car drives in comparison to the existing Atlas, but they are certainly making quite a few updates to the platform as well as the cosmetics. And this car, like I said, is still camouflaged, so it's difficult to see all of the differences. There's certainly some of the styling that we're able to see through just in the shape of the vehicle and the sheet metal itself. However, things like the lights and a lot of specific details are still hidden. So there's a lot of stuff that we're not exactly able to check out quite yet because they haven't fully revealed the design. But what Volkswagen is saying is that they've done quite a bit of testing with customer groups, gotten feedback on the design of these cars, and they're hoping that this is going to be able to pull some buyers from other brands into a Volkswagen Atlas, because this is a huge segment. These more compact three-row SUVs, they're doing quite a few updates to not only the style of the vehicle, but like I said, the platform. So this is going to be on the MQB Evo platform. It's an updated platform the car is actually riding on. Under the hood, the current Volkswagen Atlas has an EA 888 2-liter 4-cylinder with 269 horsepower, 273 pound-feet of torque, an 8-speed automatic, and you can get it either front-wheel drive or all-wheel drive. Of course, the cars that we're testing out here are all-wheel drive because we're on the snow and ice, and all-wheel drive is pretty necessary for where we're at. And they are telling us that the Evo 5 version of the EA 888 is going to go into this new car, but they're not specifying what the exact tune and hardware on that engine is going to be in this vehicle and what the final power output is. So most of the details on this car are, to this point, unknown. There's not a lot of specs we have. We do know that the wheelbase on this car is going to remain the same, which for a lot of people is probably going to be good news, because one of the reasons you would get into a three-row that's in this specific category is because you don't want something as big as a Suburban. You want a vehicle that's going to be a little more maneuverable around city streets. You want something that's going to be easier to park, maybe something that fits in your garage, where obviously not everybody's garage is going to fit a huge Chevy Suburban. So they're not, sounds like, making this vehicle at least significantly larger. They said that the wheelbase was the same on the new one as it is on the existing Atlas, but they haven't given us every single spec. So it could grow maybe in one dimension or another, but that still remains to be seen. The other thing that remains to be seen is the interior. We're not able to show anything of the interior yet. So the doors are locked on this car. The windows are completely blacked out. So that is another item on this vehicle that we don't get to see yet. We did get to drive some prototypes of this car, and they told us that we were allowed to give some general thoughts about the interior. And I would say that in general, it looks updated. It looks like an evolution of what's currently there. And I think that's about as much as I can say about it, because we had to sign an NDA. So there's a lot of things so far that they're not telling us, and there's a lot of things that even we aren't able to say. I did notice though on the sides of these cars in our badge, so these particular models, they are pre-production, so they could be a mix of different components, but this could be an R or R line model. It says SEL underneath the wrap as well. One thing that we do know about the old vehicle is that they can tow as much as 5,000 pounds, so you would figure they're probably going to target that same number, maybe slightly higher, though if I had to venture to guess, I would think that they might keep it consistent at 5,000 pounds. We also know that the current Atlas starts at $38,200 MSRP. This is a slightly larger vehicle, and none of them are going to be super basic. They do give you a fair amount of features as standard, so we can hopefully expect that the starting price on the second generation Atlas will be somewhere in a similar realm. But again, that's one of the many things that remains to be seen. Now, I can tell you a little bit about my experience of actually getting to drive this prototype. Another thing that we weren't able to do was film us driving, but they sent us some footage of the cars going around the same course that we were on, so you could get an idea of what it looked like, these cars driving, although admittedly in the hands of their actual professional drivers who are much better than us. But this is a very front wheel biased all-wheel drive system, so in the snow the car definitely corrects itself really easily. It's actually a little bit harder to slide the car than to not slide the car. But this is certainly not a vehicle that is targeting the likes of a Honda Pilot Trail Sport or anything on the more aggressive end of the spectrum in a similar category to this, because those vehicles have recovery points, they've got underbody protection, more aggressive tires. This is still going to be a primarily street-focused vehicle. So for the time being, that's what we know about this updated Volkswagen Atlas. We know they're sticking to the same wheelbase. We know that they're going to be using an Evo 5 EA 888 2-liter 4-cylinder. We know that they're going to be on the MQB Evo platform, so it's an updated platform. We know they're updating the styling. We know they're updating the interior. So there's a lot that we have to look forward to, but it's nice to get some little nuggets of information in the meantime. Anyways, that's all for this video. Let me know what you think in the comments below, and we'll see you next time.